Okay, hey everyone. Going to be doing a little bit of a trade breakdown for this week and the previous week because I haven't done them yet. This is currently where the account stands, down around $340. We'll go to the dashboard here. You can see we're in profit, in a lot of drawdown, and then back into profit, and then back into drawdown after taking a loss on oil. This was August for me, $618 profit. This month was 340. July was very horrible. This week here, specifically the second week, I didn't follow any of my strategy and I got completely screwed over, specifically on this day. And this day where I entered a trade where I didn't put my risk where I should have, so I ended up getting stopped out for a $477 loss, which was horrible, which I just put the risk pretty big and I didn't expect it to get hit, but it did because silver was breaking all-time 1-year highs at the time. And here I tried to day trade platinum. It did not work, and you can see that's why I have this loss here. And then started to move up later in the month. We had a gain here, loss, 3 trades, 2 losses here, and another gain here, not too bad, platinum short. Then here we had a nice week to end off the month. But as we can see, as the months go on, my trades get less. Like here I had 2 trades, 1 trade, 2 trades here when I took a big loss on platinum, which we will review today, and this copper short. And then in this current month, I've had only 4 trades of trading so far. Not too bad. I could have definitely held my trades longer, especially the winners. The losses is what it is, but I'm still pretty happy with how it is going so far, as I've been able to recover, work on my mental strategy, and ultimately be able to have more winning trades than losing trades in the last 2 months. Basically, probably the first trade we'll go into is all the way back from August 19th. This was a copper short, where it was 3 touch point break. As we see here, I haven't updated it, so we'll go through it together. This will be a longer video, but it'll be good to go into this. Basically, this one, I think the lowest point was here. And it was 3 touch point, 1, 2, 3. I'll change this to green. And then my risk was up here, which this will be red. So I'm looking at this. My original risk was 4.517, which is very close to this. And we can see that I did exit a little bit early. This was just because I was going on a flight and I wanted to close in profit after closing my platinum trade. So we can see that it would have hit my original price target of 4.415 down here, but I would have had to hold through some drawdown. Obviously a little bit sad that I closed early, but still we ended in profit. It was a very good break over a week's worth of data, low risk. I did exit when support and resistance was crossed. I exited right here, which was kind of support and resistance for a little bit of time, although I could have held longer, so I won't cross that line. And of course, the market was trending in this case, as there was a bit of a trend down after a movement up, and we saw that copper had a massive sell-off the previous week, so I expected a little bit more of a smaller downward push. Not too bad here. This one, I'm gonna go into trade recap later, but I'll just do a quick recap with you guys now. We can look, running profit and loss. I was in profit, back in the loss for probably 8 hours, and then we ended up closing. I was in this trade for, let's see, 1 day, 6 hours, and 35 minutes. So yes, definitely a longer trade, but I'm happy that I was in it. This trade was very risky. This was probably, I think this was one of my first times where I actually traded platinum as a trade. And we can see on this chart that it was a very much of a higher risk trade. I really liked the break here, which I don't know why this moved. But we had 3 touch point, 1, 2, 3. I entered a little bit low here. Entered around 1335. I could have entered 1338, but it was when I was sleeping, so I didn't really enter at the right price. My risk was all the way up here, which was very high risk of about 1500 US, which is about 3.5% of my account size. And we just chopped around. I got an option to close it here for probably $300 profit. I didn't. I wish I did, because I was like, okay, we finally got the downward push. We broke the trend line. We retested the trend line here. It held. We got a push down, and over the night, price went up. This is when I got up for my flight. I checked it. I was in about $1,000 of drawdown, very close to my stop loss. Then right before I was about to fly, we saw this massive sell-off here, and it got me happy that I was moving back on my risk and I wasn't going to take that big of a loss. But I was trailing my stop loss along these bigger candles here in the 5-minute time frame, which I should have just waited. And I ended up getting out for a $400 loss, which could have been a lot bigger. But we can also see here that price ended up going all the way down to my price target of 1306.5. So it would have been a $1,400 gain. Unfortunately, I did not hold this as long as I wanted to. It was very high risk. I didn't exit based on my strategy. I exited based on my own emotions. And honestly, this was very crazy. Like, if I go to the 5-minute time frame, we saw this. Yeah, I ended up putting my stop loss, I think, what did I get out? 1444.5. Yeah, we ended up getting a stop loss here, and I had my stop loss here. Then when this candle opened, I put it here, and then I was about to start flying, so I put it at like 1344, and it just hit my stop loss and then continued pushing downward in these insane 5-minute candles that ended up just continuing all the way down to my price target down here. So very sad. It would have just hit my price target and then went back up, and we saw a further push down. But honestly, could have been a lot worse. I was down $1,200 at one point, and I was up 545 if I waited for the hour candle to close. We can see a running profit and loss here. It was in drawdown of 600 for most of the day. Went to break even in profit of 155 to 200 in $1,200 of drawdown, and then I got out, unfortunately, a little bit too early. This was good trade, good entry, just way too high risk for me, and honestly really nerve-wracking for me to enter. And I guess we'll just have to wait for the next one. I did trade platinum again later on, but that is kind of it. So we'll hop into the next trade. I've mainly just been trading 3 touch point breaks because I don't trade as often. They're a lot more often to work out, and honestly, they're less risk normally apart from this platinum trade. Ideally, I should have just waited for it to play out, but again, it was really hard for me to stomach a $1,200 loss. I didn't think it would come to that, but it did, and I guess I should have just prepared better, and that was probably my biggest mistake, is not preparing for the risk that I had. And we'll see in some of my later trades, I was risking $1,000, but I was okay with risking that, and I accepted it, whereas on this platinum trade, I just didn't accept it, and it ended up causing me a lot of stress. This was a really good trade on silver here. It was a 3 touch point break off this major trend line up here. And my risk was pretty low, I think, actually. It was, our risk was 660 on this trade. So bought in here on this break. Stop loss was all the way down here. I was in profit, about $400 of profit, back to break even during the night, a little bit of drawdown here, and then boom, we got this massive push upwards, which was edging my take profit of I ended up moving my take profit to 39.495. But if we open the chart to full screen, we can see silver went on an insane run to about $41. So I definitely should have held this winner longer. I don't know if I would have been able to hold through this consolidation and through market close. I'm pretty sure I would have sold at around this area, at 40.8 or around this, and just trailed my stop. But this was honestly a very crazy run, and I'm happy I was able to capitalize on some of it. Just, yeah, I sold a little bit too early. It ended up hitting my take profit, jumping all the way up, coming back down, then pushing up to the upside even more. Honestly, it is what it is. I'm happy with this trade. I haven't journaled about it yet, but I was risking 660. My initial target was 670. I did not hold that long, because this was currently my biggest trade as of the date. And we can see that I was pretty much in profit the whole time, which was really nice to see. And I was really happy with how this trade played out. This was a 3 touch point. It was checked all of the 5 boxes. I knew silver was going for a push even further, and I was honestly thinking about exiting at the previous all-time high, or just slightly before it, because I knew that there was going to be a pullback in around this area. But we didn't honestly see that. We saw it just break fully through all-time highs and broke even higher. So really good trade. I wish I went a little bit heavier on position size, but again, it was lower risk-ish, and I'm just happy for how this trade played out. I ended up moving my stop loss higher, and if you've been following the market recently, silver just broke 43, and so if I was actually traded this trade fully like my trendline break trades, and I moved my stop loss and I added another trend line right here, which I did move my stop loss below, after price broke higher, I would still be in this trade and I would be up thousands of dollars. Unfortunately, holding trades longer and based on your strategy fully is very, very, very difficult. And it's hard when you see that you're up 500 US to actually like hold through that. But I'm happy with this trade. I was up 490 or I was up like 400, and I ended up like holding through drawdown again, and that was very stressful for me. Not stressful, but like very hard for me to do. And so I'm happy that I was able. This was a big trade for me, and I'm happy with how it played out. As we go into the next trade, I went back to trading oil on another 3 touch point break. I was in this trade for, oh my gosh, 3 days, 18 hours, and 25 minutes because I was holding over the weekends. This trade I haven't really looked into since I entered it, so it'll be nice to go through it together. I'm gonna switch to the 1 hour chart, and this was a 3 touch point break. You can't see it here, but the previous point was, let me just turn off this. Yeah, previous point was all the way up here, so I'll just drag this all the way up, and we see 1, 2, 3. I think there might have been another one. Was there? Yeah. No, it was not. It was just off this one, because I think it was off like 1, 2, 3, 4, but it just doesn't show on this chart. But this was pretty good break. I ended up entering here as this this big green candle rebounded, so I was happy with the entry. Held through drawdown into Thursday, into Friday, into market close on Friday. Was in significant drawdown still. Stop loss wasn't here. It was. This is why I love this strategy. It's very simple. It works very well. And honestly, it's really easy to learn. Like we saw here, I sold way too early. We did get a push up. I entered here. Initial risk was all the way down here. I was risking 321, lower risk trade. And and I closed way too early, as we did see price pushed up to 66 area. I don't know why I couldn't have held longer. It wasn't that much longer. This is like, I'm a little bit sad about this trade not holding long enough, but it was 3 touch point, was low risk, over a week's worth of data, and it was trending. We got this long push up Monday morning. I closed in profit there. Should have held a little bit longer. I'm pretty sure I probably would have sold around this area, as there was some previous resistance at the 66 area. So I probably would have exited at around that price if I didn't exit at 65.48, like my original price target, which was support and resistance. And we can see this trade, I was mostly in drawdown, not that much drawdown, about $150, $200 at one point. Or it was down 213, so not that close to my stop loss, which was very good. A little bit close here, but still really happy with how this trade played out. And honestly, I'm happy that I was able to hold this trade for over the weekend into drawdown through all that stuff. It's really hard to do. And honestly, just like getting used to holding trades longer. That was decent oil trade. Again, I haven't looked at these trades yet, and it's really interesting to see, like, I should just hold like a tiny bit longer, because we've seen that on all my winners that I've exited either too early, whether it was silver, the platinum trade, this oil trade. Sometimes you never know, but it's honestly just good to wait until you get at least what you're risking back, which I did not on this trade. I did close it early though, because I closed it early manually, because this was immediately after I entered my really long silver trade, my really big silver trade, and I didn't want to get too cocky. So I decided to exit in profit and just take a small gain and be happy and not get too overconfident with the strategy, because that's when bad things happen. Following that oil trade, I traded a trendline bounce on platinum, which was honestly a really good bounce. It ended up being a 3 touch point bounce. I will draw the trend line. It was 1, 2, 3, 4. We had a lot of bounces on these trend lines here. Although this one, I was in a little bit of drawdown. I was unable to hold for more than I wanted to, but we saw that platinum went crazy. Like, it could have been such a good trade on this bounce. It was 3 touch point, week's worth of data, low risk, trending, very good, 3 touch point bounce too or more. So really good trade. I just didn't hold long enough. Unfortunately, I was up 160, wasn't, closed at $80. It is what it is. Got a little bit nervous, but honestly, I should have just held it out. Trendline bounces are a little bit riskier for me. They're stressful for me to trade, and we'll see that this was a good trade for me. I just need to hold a little bit longer. I was only in it for 45 seconds. But 45 seconds to make $80 isn't too bad, although it's just following the strategy. And that's honestly it. I think trendline bounces are a little bit too fast-paced for me. I prefer something a little longer. And just honestly, just like holding trade for days is a lot easier than trading for 5 minutes and risking 325 or risking a few hundred US for a trade that might get you out in a minute or two. Whereas when you risk higher amounts, or when you trade trendline bounces, or no, trendline breaks, you're more likely to hold trades longer and ultimately not actually get stopped out within the first hour of trading, as we see in a lot of my other trades, like 35 seconds. Previous ones, 3 days, day 8 hours, day 7 hours, day 6 hours. But then we'll move into my next biggest trade, actually, which was a platinum short. I was very, very, very happy with this trade. This was on the same trend line that I traded the bounce on, because price did bounce in that area. And so when price actually fully bounced off that area, I ended up shorting. And although risk was a little bit higher, pretty sure I had another. No, that was my risk. Okay. This was higher risk. I was risking 1100 for this trade. Got in here on this break, was in a bit of profit. Stop loss was up here, 1406. I was in drawdown about $500 at one point. Yes, I was. Yeah, $400-ish of drawdown. Then I was in class actually, and I ended up moving my take profit just slightly at the bottom of these lows here because I constantly saw price bounce in this area and kind of have resistance. So to me, that was a support and resistance zone. And so I had take profit here. I was in class at this time. Price broke lower, and it basically, as soon as it broke these lows from the previous weeks, it ended up crashing from 1372 down to 1362 within 5 minutes. So I really wish I held a little bit longer. But honestly, it was my biggest trade to date, and seeing that I made, like, it was pretty crazy. I was in class. This was probably one of my briskier trades that I've done. Lower risk for platinum, obviously, but checked all the 5 boxes. Trending, broke the lows, really good. Seeing like I was in class and I ended up making $530 profit, I was very ecstatic, and because that's a lot of money. Like it's really hard for me to fathom making that from trading, and I don't really know. I didn't really think it would be possible to make this amount. And it was like really big for me because this brought my account to profit again after being in $2,000 worth of drawdown. And honestly, it was a very emotional trade for me. Like I thought about like leaving class in that moment and just like going to get some fresh air and going to relax, and because it was very stressful, and I wish I held a little bit longer. As we see, price went down and it could have been $1,100 profit. But honestly, like, no complaints here. It was really good trade, a good gain, biggest gain I've ever had. It's a lot of money to make in a single trade, let alone a very simple trading strategy that works. And honestly, it's kind of it. Like, this was very emotional trade for me. Lot of drawdown, held through just a lot of emotions, a lot of other things happening in my life, and it was very eye-opening just to see that like this trade actually, the strategy actually works, and that like I'm able to make money off the strategy. And to make $2,000 in the last 2 months trading trend lines just honestly blew my mind. And again, making 530 US in a single trade doesn't really seem fathomable to me. And so it just like this trade move removed so many boundaries for me, and that's why after this trade I ended up not trading for a week because I was just super nervous. That's the biggest gain I've ever seen. It was honestly just very crazy for me to see. We can see like that's my biggest gain. I've had 2 of my biggest trades within 10 days of each other just because of this strategy, and it's honestly so crazy to see that it actually works. And we saw, like, I've had a lot bigger gains than losses recently, just like holding through my strategy, waiting for the right entries, and honestly just having patience. Unfortunately, the next trade is a loss. This one, I was risking 2% of my account. My account grew through other investments. It grew about $5,000 in the last week through my other investments. And this trade, honestly, it could have been a little bit better. I don't know if I'm that happy about how this trade went. But I waited for the right entry. It was 3 touch point, was low risk, week's worth of data, trending. This trade had a lot more emotions in it than I wanted it to. I initially had a 3 touch point break here in this area, 63 point-ish. Price broke that, and I was sleeping, so I didn't get in on this trade. So I wish I did, because oil had a big push up. And so I redrew the trend line. It had 1, 2, which 1 would be back here, 2, 3. So on this break here, it doesn't look like a break, but it was a break on my chart. I entered long with a stop loss below this candle here. And it was a bit of a riskier trade. I was risking 450 US. I increased my contract size by 1, and this trade just wasn't in the cards. Honestly, we can look at the running profit and loss, and I was in loss for most of the morning. I went to $30 profit, then all the way back to loss, and I ended up getting stopped out. But if we see price continued to push lower, so I'm happy that I got out. There was still a lot more downward momentum to come. But honestly, it is what it is. I held to my strategy. I entered based on my strategy. I wish I waited for a better entry. Again, when you trade trend lines, there's a lot of emotions that go into it because it's based on something you draw, and honestly, just like, you have to be in the right headspace to trade them. And I think in this trade, I just wasn't in the right headspace, and we see that it ended up being a loss. It was a good entry, good exit, lower risk. I should have maybe only had 3 contracts instead of 4. But it was, I think I was only in the trade for 5 hours, which is a bit longer, but not as long as some of the other trades that I've had, which are 3 days. This platinum one was 2 hours and 15 minutes. Obviously a little bit different, but if I change my date range, because this was when I started to refine my strategy, to today, we can see that it's mainly just been only wins. I've had 4 losing trades, 11 winning trades, good profit factor, pretty good average win-loss rate, only a little bit of drawdown, and honestly, I'm not too sad about the oil trade. It is what it is. It happens. I wish it didn't happen, obviously, but it's bound to happen with this strategy. You can't win all the time, although I wish I could, because if I didn't close this for a loss, it would have been like 12 winning trades in a row, 10 winning trades in a row, which is crazy. But just like the last 2 months for me have really shown the importance and the like reliability of trendline trading. Like, it works really well. We've seen with all my profits that I've made decent amounts of money through trading trend lines. Obviously right now we're in a little bit of drawdown in the account of 340, but honestly that can change very quickly. I'm just waiting for the right entries this week, and I'm looking for a trendline bounce on oil. I'm looking to buy into oil at a lower price at around support. But honestly, I'm just kind of waiting for good entries. As we saw with these 2 platinum, this platinum trade was really good. This was good. This was good. These were really good entries too. Honestly, just like I said, waiting. I'll keep you guys updated, but I wanted to do a trade recap for the last month or so, and just kind of talk about where my head is, how trendline trading is working for me. It's becoming more consistent every day. I'm learning about the market. I'm learning how to control my emotions, because it's the biggest thing when you're holding trades for 3 days and you're in drawdown, then you're in profit, and it's really hard to hold it for longer. I'm also going to take a look at some of my playbooks as well, and we can see that honestly, I think one of my worst performing symbols looks like gold. So I haven't traded gold recently, but honestly, oil's also not looking that good for me either. Like, I've made some money on oil, but I'm not super confident when I trade it, and I think I just prefer silver, platinum, and copper. But we'll see. Just waiting for better entries. But that's kind of it. I'll keep you guys updated this week into the market if I do trade. But as I refine my strategy, I trade less. I'll still do weekly recaps. I'll recap what happened in the market too, and I'll keep you guys along this journey. But first, make sure you subscribe and like. It's going to be a long journey. I do want to grow this account a lot, and ultimately just create some secondary income for me and just show that trading is possible, even with very simple strategies. As we've seen here, it works. Just good success with it, and honestly, I have no complaints. I'll talk to you guys later, but that is it for today. Bye.